Hello and welcome to this new event of Casa Asia. Today is the World Refugee Day, so we are very, very happy and extremely happy to have this webinar on with the refugees and well, especially not the refugees, about the Rohingyas. And we are very happy to present this dialogue. We are Rohingyas, the look from the Rohingyas photographs that we are co-organizing with our embassy in Dhaka in Bangladesh. We have some guests. I will introduce them, all of them, because we are many people talking today. So the most important are at the end the two photographs, and also the special speaker that I will introduce very quickly. So I will pass the floor or the microphone and the camera to Emilia Celemín Redondo, who is Segunda Jefatura in our embassy in Dhaka in Bangladesh. Then we will have Natalia Torrent Martinez, who is the country representative from Médicos Sans Frontières there in Bangladesh, and Regina de la Portilla, who is the chief communication in ACNUR in Bangladesh, who will present, contextualize the situation of the Rohingyas. Who are the Rohingyas? How is the current situation for them at this moment? And then we will have a roundtable with the second part with David Palazón, who is the curator of the exposition. And we will see some beautiful pictures some of them made by Sahat, who is also a photographer, but also the curator of the exposition and founder of the magazine Rohingya Photographer, and Omal Kahir, who she is also a photographer. So with this brief introduction and saying again that we are extremely happy to have in a day like today this activity, I will give the floor to Emilia, and then after you, Emilia, we will pass directly to Natalia and Regina, that will introduce and contextualize the situation of the Rohingyas. And then you can start, David, with the roundtable. So, Emilia, whenever you want, the microphone and the camera is yours. Thank you.
The floor is mine. Thank you, Rafael. Well, I'm representing here the Spanish embassy today, and I'm grateful to be here, to be part of this project. This has been a baby that Rafael and the photographers have been nurturing for a long time, and we have been trying to collaborate together, to work together for a long time. It has been really difficult and challenging because I think also for the pandemic, but due to that reason, I think the online format work really well, but I think this project has been so successful that even today I had the opportunity to attend to the in the flesh opening of the exhibition in Dhaka. So it starts with a very small and humble project, but it's becoming bigger and bigger. So I would like to thank, in the first place, of course, to David. Thank you for counting on me, on us. You are the responsible for bringing together such a group of young artists, putting also the Spanish embassy in Dhaka in contact with their work. The idea caught our eyes from the beginning. The exhibition online, it's now on. So we are really happy, and thank you, of course, Casa Asia, for believing in this meaningful exhibition and the power that every image on it transmits. And finally, also, of course, the most important part is talking to you, photographers, those who are here today, those who are maybe watching or will watch it later. Your patience, your will to keep going despite the challenging circumstances have been immense. The photographs you have taken during this time, and I'm saying it really because I've seen it directly this morning, show life as it is and as it shouldn't be, because it shows the strength, the vitality, but it also shows the struggle and the fight you're in. So I think that we should all thank you for sharing this intimate moment. Please start with the contextualization, Natalia. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Natalia?
Yes, thank you, Emilio. Thank you, Rafael. Good afternoon, everyone from Dhaka. As Rafael was saying, I'm working with Doctors Without Borders, Médicos Sin Fronteras, Médecins Sans Frontières, here in Bangladesh. It's been almost 2 years, and I will help you out to, the exhibition is about the Rohingyas, so who are the Rohingyas? And actually the Rohingyas are an ethnic and linguistic and as well a Muslim minority that they're originary from the Rakhine state, which is in Myanmar. Actually, it's the country neighboring Bangladesh. They have been described as one of the most persecuted minorities in the world. Actually, there is a lot of disputes about the origin of the Rohingya. It's not clear, even though they have been attached to Myanmar for centuries, they are not recognized as full citizenships in Myanmar, and actually they're also persecuted and segregated in Myanmar. We have It has been stated that actually the Rohingyas are the largest stateless population in the world, and we can see Rohingya population not only in Bangladesh, and it's true that currently the larger numbers of this population are located in Bangladesh, but as well we see obviously Myanmar where they're coming from, but as well we see Rohingyas in Malaysia and in some other countries in the region. As I said, Rakhine State is bordering Bangladesh, and during the 20th century, we have seen several fleets or several movements of population from Myanmar, from Rakhine State towards Bangladesh, obviously fleeing from violence. We have seen, I mean, the first recorded movement of population was in the 40s, but afterwards, especially in the 90s and in the early 2000s, we have seen and we have witnessed population crossing the border looking for refuge in Bangladesh. And actually, MSF has been present already in the area of Cox's Bazar since the 90s. What is really relevant is, like, obviously in 2017, especially in August of 2017, we have seen at that moment the larger movement of population that it was recorded, and everything happened because there was ARSA, which is a militant group from the Rakhine State, started an attack to some police stations, and that caused a retaliation from the military, and they were not making difference between militants and normal population, and that caused that 750,000 people, it's that estimated, crossed the border from Myanmar towards Bangladesh in 6 weeks. In that moment, that was the largest population movements that we have witnessed. It's true that right now, Ukraine, the numbers are larger, but in that moment, we have seen an MSF teams that they were in the ground. They were explaining that they saw numbers as 30,000 people crossing per day in an area of Bangladesh that, even though there were already some settlements from the previous movements, from the previous displacements, the area where this population was received and was not ready for receiving them. In that moment, the government of Bangladesh opened the borders and allowed this population to cross the borders. And the population there, they were settled around the pre-existing camps, and as well they create some other settlements. The camps, they were created in an area that used to be former natural parks, so it was an area that was not ready to prepare or to receive this large amount of population. We describe them as refugees, but the reality is that in Bangladesh they are not recognized as refugees, because Bangladesh is not signatory of the Refugee Convention of the 51. Actually, they are described as forcibly displaced Myanmar citizens, and obviously as not being recognized as refugees, they are not granted some of the rights, as for example, right of movement out of the camps. They cannot work, they cannot have access to justice, they cannot have access to livelihood activities, and they cannot have access to the education, only the one that is provided in the camps. As I said, this population was settled in what we see right now that it's the larger refugee camp in the world. It's an area. It's an area that it's covering. There is 1 million population living in an area pretty reduced. As I said, the camps that were settled in a former natural park, so they were not ready, and obviously it's an area that is pretty much prone to flooding and to especially during the monsoon time, that it's currently we are in the monsoon time. It's an area that's pretty prone, it's very delicate and it's pretty prone to flooding, and as well not having the best living conditions. We describe the camps as a very fragile environment. It has been right now, since the last exodus has been already 5 years, and we see that this population is still completely relying on the humanitarian assistance of different agencies, among them Doctors Without Borders, that were providing support and we're providing especially healthcare. From the health point of view, we're seeing that this environment it's pretty much prone to epidemics, as we have seen, because the population is in a very fragile situation. It's 5 years. We know, and when we talk to the Rohingyas, what they're expressed to us is that their willingness of going back home, and for them home it's the Rakhine state, and right now the situation to be able to go back home is not there, especially since the coup d'etat that happened last year. And the big question has been 5 years of this million of Rohingya living in Bangladesh in these very fragile camps, and the main question is going to be what's next. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Regina.
Thank you very much. You said so much, so I'm just going to try and paint a picture and try and describe what I felt the first time I arrived in the camps. You have to imagine in the middle of a natural reserve, Rohingya refugees arrived, and they cut down the forest so that they would have firewood to cook. So the first problem was they cut down the whole forest. So for the last 5 years, we have been trying to support the Rohingya refugees to replant the forest, together also with the Bangladeshi communities. And we've come a long way. So 600 hectares have been replanted. And part of the success is thanks to the incredible support that we get from the international community that allows us to buy them a liquefied petroleum gas cylinder, which is a cylinder of gas that's something that we used to have in some of our countries. Now we have these gas connections, but it's a cylinder of gas that allows them to cook at home. This is key to know because it's the only Rohingya, the only camp around the world that has 100% gas cylinders for the refugees. This means that they no longer need to cut firewood and allows us to restore the environment. So I think this is a very important thing to note how far they've come. We were talking about the area and we were hearing how congested it is and how many people are living there. So just to give you an example, we're talking about over 600 something people living in an area that's 13 kilometers, square kilometers. It's about the same population of Sevilla living in this little space, right? And Sevilla would be 140 square kilometers. So just that you can have imagine a little bit of the amount of people that are stuck in this space. The shelters are all made from temporary materials as per the requests of the government so that it remains as a temporary settlement, meaning it's all bamboos, it's all plastic tarpaulins over the shelters. It's mostly also bamboo bridges. And we were just listening, right? They're prone to monsoon, means very, very strong rains and flooding, which means that every year, everything washes away. We see bridges wash away, we see shelters wash away. So people who have been displaced by violence and persecution 5 years ago might be displaced now every year because of the monsoon rains, because they live in these areas. And even though we're trying to relocate them elsewhere, there's a limitation to where we can relocate these people. So we've been training with refugees for the last years, and we've set up this incredible response team made up of refugee volunteers. And they themselves have become the first responders, and they respond to the monsoon. They help relocate, they help save people from the water, they help people evacuate before the flooding really gets worse. And they're also planting trees, because the trees actually prevent landslides and prevent the worst part of the monsoon consequences. However, in the dry season, they also face terrible threats of fires. It's very, very dry, so we also hear about so many fires. And it's also because the materials, again, are temporary. So they live in a temporary space. They have been living like this for 5 years, and this is the newest influx. We were hearing before that there was another influx, and the first one was in 1992. So we have people who have been here in 30 years, living in bamboo sheds for 30 years. And some of them have actually been born here and have never been outside the camps. So it's a very difficult place to live. And there's very little that children and youth can do, more so for youth. We have some learning centers for children, which does not mean that they have formal education. They don't have schools. They have learning centers. And this year we will start rolling out the Myanmar curriculum so that when they can go home, they actually know what's going on in their schools, right? But we're talking about a population that doesn't even speak the same language as the people in Myanmar. We actually need to teach them again how to speak Burmese, because many of them don't know. So additionally to that, youth don't really have any opportunities. There's no high school, there's no universities, there's no opportunities to go to the university. So we have more than 52% of the people living in these camps, so over 500,000 people, younger than 18 years of age, with nothing to do, or almost nothing to do. Some engage as volunteers, but that's the minimum. We have very little amount of spots that we can give for volunteers. So what do? They need to find a way to keep busy, to keep their minds occupied. And it's a place where they don't have TVs, they don't have computers, they mostly they're not permitted to have phones afternoon and night. So just to finalize, so a lot of young people have nothing to do in the camps. And I think David did something wonderful and magnificent by helping and supporting these young refugees who are actually working on telling the story of their people. So they're maintaining their history and they're maintaining the cultural heritage by taking photos of their days in and days out. They document their lives. And we always speak about the importance of giving refugees a voice. And I think David did this. And he did this in an extraordinary way in a very difficult environment where taking a picture can actually be seen as suspicious and or as not the best thing to do or as not appropriate in this moment. So I think the project that David started, the way we are looking into the identity of the Rohingya refugees is crucial because, and I want to stress this a lot, they depend on their identity. They were persecuted because of their identity, and yet they've never had identification documents. So it goes around all this, right? Like they belong to these people, to the Rohingya, but they don't have an ID document that actually says this to the world. They do have one now. It's for some of them, it's the first time they get a document, but the document is issued by UNHCR and the government, and it allows them to access the services inside the camps and maybe sometimes external to the camps, but for very, very particular reasons. So it's like living without a license, without a bank account, without being able to buy a cell phone easily, without buying a SIM, because you don't have an ID card that's valid. So I think this is what is particularly heartbreaking for me to see sometimes in the case of the Rohingya population that is also so young. So going back to the positive, today I was with the photographers in the camp. And the day before that, I was there as well. And one of them said a phrase that I think I took with me, because the most difficult part about my job is not speaking Rohingya. I cannot communicate directly with them, and I need an interpreter. And even an interpreter takes time and it's difficult. And this person told me, photography is a language. It is the language I have found to communicate what I see and what I feel with the world. Because I know that nobody or almost nobody else than us speaks Rohingya, meaning that we go through an interpreter, and there our words many times lose meanings. So with that, I hand over to David. I wanted to thank you for this incredible project, and I hope you enjoy speaking to the photographers as much as I have. So thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. You did the best possible introduction, Regina. So now, David, please introduce the project, and also Sahat and Omal, and you can start this roundtable. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, Rafael. And thank you, Regina. Yeah, you put it quite clear. Photography is a language. My background is creativity and mentoring, and all over the world. And I happened to find myself in Cox's Bazar 3 years ago, curating a quite important project for the Rohingya. So through that project, I engaged with some of the youth and Sahat and Omal and many others, because the project was about trying to find talent and what that talent might bring to create an identity of the Rohingya. Because if we have this kind of population and community in kind of limbo stage for a long period of time, there's a danger that this identity and heritage of being fades away. And we can see that because there's different generations already of people who might have been growing in the camps for 25 years. And as you clearly said, they don't speak the language anymore, or they don't really know how their homeland look like, although they can tell you stories about their grandparents and so on. So this project, I did my job in Bangladesh, and then we kept in touch with Siat, and, he's a talented photographer, because of the COVID and the media and the restrictions, and we got all complicated. But as you quietly pointed, they have their phones and they go around documenting their life, and social media sort of, in a way, give them a voice and portrays and documents the history of what's happening in that space. So we kept communication sort of with Sahat, and we were talking about, I was making a photo book and he wanted to make a photo book. I said, well, I'll help you to make your photo book, and then we can sell it online, and so on and so on. So we started the process, and it just went very well. And, his photo book got published, and it's like self-publishing, which is also a way of, communicating your own personal sort of way of seeing the world. There's a lot of poetry going on in the camps. And so that worked very well. And then the next step was like, maybe we can have Sahat had some friends who were photographers, and perhaps we could do a bigger publication. So here it is. It is quite complex that a man like me in this side of the world sort of end up engaging with Sahat, who has all the credit to put the team together and manage to get all these photographers to work out all the pictures and in an organized way. And then I did the work to put it together. But without the photos, there will not be magazine. Without the photos, there will not be exhibition. Without the photos, we all not be here today celebrating this opportunity. So it is very much up to the photographers sort of to congratulate them for their effort and for their experience and their motivation to document their lives, and to Sahat especially for making this massive effort to put it all together. So without much more explanation, I have a selection of photos in a presentation, and I like to have a bit of a discussion with Sahat and Omal, who is still hiding there without the video. Omal, can you put on the video? He's a bit shy. And then we can have a bit of a conversation about some of the things that, we have been talking before. There she is. So let me see. I hope this works. Yeah, let me see. Can you all see the? Oh no, I think I need to put the one moment. Share the screen. Yeah. Okay.
Now, perfect.
So, Sahat, thank you very much for joining us today. I know it's been a long day. You probably have more media requests than anybody in the media world. But you managed to do your Al Jazeera report, so that's very good. And this is, can you please talk a little bit about the cover and the character in the cover, and it's your photo, so probably you know a little bit about who this young man is.
Okay, David. Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank everyone in this webinar, especially the Casa Asia who are hosting this webinar. And so because of them, we can talk with many great people around the world from the Spanish embassy in Dhaka, and also the Natalia, who is from MSF in Dhaka. And also thanks Regina for explaining our situation, for explaining the suffering of the Rohingya people at time. And thanks everyone. And without David, we could not make this meeting. And first of all, it's really grateful for having him with us to make this magazine. And he did a lot of hard work, signed the files. And also the Spanish embassy in Dhaka, who supported us for making this magazine, and who supported us since the first for curating the photos from the photographers, and publishing and launching our website, and also organizing an exhibition in Barcelona. So we really thanks to the people of Spain, and so yeah, finally we have this great magazine in our hand today. And also we would like to thank the UNHCR for supporting us in Bangladesh, for organizing the exhibition in Dhaka at a great museum. It's a famous and the biggest museum in Bangladesh, the World Liberation Museum. So we got chance to show our works to the people of Bangladesh and to the people from other countries like UK, from many different countries. They are visiting the exhibition, and they are looking to our photographs, and they know us, and they know that we Rohingya are documenting and our lives. We Rohingya are telling our stories by ourselves, and we are sharing our hopes and dreams. So they know us. They don't forget Rohingya. So if I have to explain about this photo of the little boy holding a photo of him that was taken in 2017. So that photo was taken by me. It was a big honor for me to take his photo and to put that photo on the cover of our magazine. His name is Hassan. He's a deep muted boy, and the photo you can see he's holding a phone, and he's showing his photo of 2017. In that photo, he was crying, climbing on a truck of 8, and he was crying for the food on that day when he came from Myanmar and arrived in Bangladesh. That photo was taken by a Canadian photographer. His name is Kevin Fraser, maybe. And yeah, he took that photo, and finally it's a famous photo. It's one of the top 10 photos that show the exodus of the Rohingya, the suffering of the Rohingya people, and and that photo is also one of the 100 photos shortlisted by the Time magazine to show that show the Rohingya genocide and the fleeing and this escaping from the genocide perpetrated by the military in Myanmar. So that Hassan is now 13 years old, and he go around to the primary learning centers in the camp that are not formal education, that are not the formal learning facilities, but running by the UNICEF and the other partners or organizations who are working for education in Rohingya refugee camp in Bangladesh. So he go there and he learn some English, and finally he is a good artist, and he draw very good art, and he is a really good artist. And David met him David is I know David very well.
I met him. I met him a long time ago, several times, and he has an extraordinary capacity to communicate. I mean, although he is mute and deaf, he just is so alive, you know. So I wish there was for him access to some kind of special education. I know that Sahat is very concerned about education because he has some siblings himself. So I'm gonna move to the next photo because I think this is your daughter. Correct, Sahat?
Yeah, I can see. I put her photos there in the movie.
And how do you feel as a father in the refugee camp? You often talk to me about education.
I took that photo while she was studying in the home, in the shelter at night, in the solar light. So she always try to write English like ABCD. That things. She goes to a learning center close to my shelter in my camp, and she is learning the primary school. So. First of all, the thing is that. I really worry for her future, that she was born in the refugee camp. So we don't see good access to the higher education. We don't have access to the formal education. So I worry for her future. What I want is only education for her, or to give a better future to her. There are a lot, there are more than 65,000, more than 65% of Rohingya refugees are children under 18 years old. So like her, like my daughter, there are a lot of children in every family who don't have access to the formal education. So we are worrying very much for our children, for the future of our children. So we are seeking the support from the international community, from the UN organization, and we request for the access to formal education.
Thank you, Sahat. I think you're a good father for worrying about your children, and it was Father's Day yesterday, I believe. This is also your photo.
I'm trying my best to make the.
Who is
Which
this?
one?
This photo in black and white that you took is one of the photos.
Naveed, sorry to interrupt you, but we continue to see the same picture.
Oh no!
I'm not the only one, so just
that's not moving.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the screen is not moving.
So are we in the cover? Are we still in the cover? Oh.
Yes, we're still in the cover.
Yes.
Okay.
Now.
Okay. So this is Sahat's daughter, Takiya. Takiya? Is that how you pronounce it? Sahat?
Yes, Takiya.
Okay. And,
yes, her name is Takiya.
Very important you told me about this, otherwise we keep seeing the same photo. So we were moving to see this other photo, which is a black and white photo, which is like a lot of happiness. I think when we put, so basically the process of making this magazine was very simple, so we set the brief of the idea of having identity and the existence of to be and to exist somewhere. And so we started to receive photos, and then we figured out a way that perhaps the challenge will be to get somebody from every age, whether there was a man or a woman. So we ended up having people from 2 months old all the way to 102 years old. And then when we have this old man, we sort of decided to stop it there because although I know somebody who is 120, at least by the UNHCR car, and born in 1900. So Sahat, so there's a mixture of photos, and there's black and white photos and color photos and playful photos. So because inevitably children play.
Her name is Aditya. Yeah, her name is Aditya. I saw her while she was playing close to a road while I was going to my office, and I saw how she was playing with her friends. And it was monsoon at that time, in monsoon time. So I saw she looked so nice, and when she was playing with her friends, she was like, she looks very happy, and I took her photo. And at that time also she was smiling with me, and she like talking with me, like he wanted to talk with me, and I approached her and I show her photo on my phone, and also I show her photo to her mother, and they felt very happy to see her photo look so nice, so amazing, so beautiful on
that is important. I think one of my experience of photographing people around the world and acknowledging their presence and their capture, giving back to them, I think is a way of recognizing and serving that acknowledgement that a photographer does when say, "Can I take a photo?" You were talking about the monsoon before, so now we're going to go to Omal, who I think took this photo. Omal, what can you tell us about this?
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Omal. Welcome to our little event. Thank you for joining us. Who are these people? Who are these people? What are they doing here?
They are siblings. Her name is Nur Kalima, and age 10, and her older brother Zaibul Haq. They are having fun, and when they are taking a shower under the rain, at that time I took the.
Did you get wet when you took the photo, or you were under the cover? Yeah, you were okay. So the part of building a collective narrative is, you have from birth until sort of very elderly age. So what we tried to do was to build, if you look at the magazine builds a collective narrative of birth, learning, understanding, playfulness, encountering what teenagers might encounter in their life, having doubts about your body, facing, having to marry, and then growing in age and all the various sort of things. So that's what we try to portray in that magazine and that collective portrait. This is also another photo of Omal, and this young boy here, I think it's called Robbie, correct? Yes. What is this game?
Long when I was coming in the field, so at that time I saw them. So Robbie Alam, age 15, plays a game of Telem ball with friends. It is a national sport of Myanmar. The object is to keep the ball from hitting the ground while passing it back and across the net to the opposite team. So the sport is very popular. Rohingya youth who opens play at the Campesia school in the refugee camp.
It's a very nice action shot. You got there, the ball in the air with a young man looking at the ball. So very good shot. You could be a sports photographer. And this is a national sport of Myanmar, which all the Rohingya play in the camps. Although the ball is not made anymore of cane, maybe it's plastic, but that's just a consequence of globalization. Okay, we're going to see, this is kind of a bit of an interesting photo that Sia, there's a kind of funny story behind this photo. Sahat, is he there?
Yes.
Can you tell us quickly?
I think the photo of the men wearing the masks, homemade masks, that was made by the wasted plastic.
And this is because you told me that this man obviously wasn't wearing this mask for health reasons, but because he had to go somewhere to do something.
I still can't see that photo.
No?
Yeah, I can see now the photo. Yeah, he was going to the food distribution point, and he saw there people were not allowing to get inside the center without masks. They put there no mask, no service. So that's why he made a mask by himself by collecting a wasted plastic from the road, and he made that mask and wearing and going to the food distribution center to take food for the family. It's like it was like a big challenges for the refugees because every refugee can't buy the masks from the shop, and also there are not a lot of NGO to distribute masks to every refugee. So it was a big challenges for the refugees to access to the food distribution center and to access to the healthcare center during the COVID situation. So I take that kind of photos when I see people are facing difficulties because of something, because of a natural disaster, like because of nature or because of something, any other things. So I take that kind of photos and I share on my channels on social media, on like Twitter and Instagram. So it's like a kind of advocating for the community, for the people who are suffering this kind of challenges.
Thank you, Sahat. This in the tradition of photography, this will be a street photography, which in the camps there's a lot of street photography going on, but here you have a kind of humorous angle, improvising photography of a man who is improvising a mask. This is what I categorize as, so when I was doing my work in the camps, we identify three kinds of objects. So one is objects that they are sort of they were brought from Bangladesh from Myanmar to Bangladesh. Objects that were made in Bangladesh out of the memory of the Rohingya. And the third category of objects will be objects that the Rohingya invent in order to survive in the camps. And there's a lot of improvisation and invention using recycled materials to make toys, etc., etc. I think we have very short time, so we're gonna have to go quick, Sahat, okay? So I'm gonna, this is Omal's photo. Very quickly, Omal, give us, this is another funny photo that Omal took. Quickly, like 10 seconds explanation, quickly.
Okay, he's Nazar Ahmad, 52 years old, and he's a very funny person who always makes jokes with young children around his home. So he always educates to young boys to avoid smoking, which is a bad habit. So also he smokes frequently. That's all.
So he's a bit of a advocate for anti-smoking advocate, but he smokes a lot. But you see, this is just another sort of situation where, you know, the Rohingya sort of also capture their own idiosyncrasy of their life. Okay, now Sahat, maybe you have here, I know this is quite a strong image. This is an image from the fire in the camps, and Sahat was personally, I think your shelter was damaged by the fires, and you suffer quite a lot of loss in the fires. Can you quickly, like in 2 minutes, give us a bit of a explanation of what you recall from that day?
It's an important image of my life, and my life in 2020. That photo remember me the testimony of the fire, the great fire that was occurred in the camp that left more than 50,000 family homeless, and some I think some more dozen of people were died by the fire. So it was a very unfortunate day. It was a very sad day for the Rohingya refugees in the camp. So I took that photo of when I was going to check my home, and that was close to her home. That was close to her shelter. At the time I saw her, she was crying and looking down to the hill, looking to her shelter that was gone to ashes. She was crying like our lives were burned like that. And I go down to the hill and I saw the situation of my shelter is same to her shelter. There's nothing, that all the shelters gone to ashes, including everything in my shelter were gone to ashes, including my laptop and my pen drive and a lot of things that we left with the shelter because we could not save all the belongings, all the things, that because all the people in my family, they gone away to escape the fire. As soon as they saw the fire started and the people were running, and they escaped the fire and they go away. So we could not save anything. After that, we had to wait more than 2 months for a new shelter because the NGOs were busy to provide shelter to every families. So because there are a lot of families, there are a few families, so it was not easy even for the organization, for the agencies.
So it's quite well. I think there was around 50,000 people lost their shelters. Yeah, that was quite a tragedy, and some of what Natalia and Regina, they were talking before about the challenges of living in a refugee camp. And but to me, this photo talks about the right of ownership, of the right of property, of the right of the fact that this, you lost everything twice already, from moving from Myanmar to Bangladesh and from having this fire, and it's quite an endurance way of life, having to start from zero all the time. And I think we have 7 minutes. We have to make this very short. We have several photos here about relate to the identity and different documents and people and their sort of like a collecting of documents, and the documents they brought from Myanmar, and the different sort of like strategies.
Yes, I think I took some photos of the identities.
It's because the Rohingya, some of the people we encountered.
The photo of family.
Yes, this one.
Called the Sweet Insect photo. That took in the census in every year. The anniversary census that the government of the immigration of Myanmar, they count and they register the family member once in a year. So they take photos of the family together.
So Rohingya families have a photo taken every year by the government back in Rakhine State.
Yeah.
And this
one is called Tongkocho, like it's a green card, and it was provided before the temporary identity card, and it's like it was a good, a better document for the Rohingya, but they took back and they took that document from the Rohingya people, and they provided the temporary card that called white card after the constitutional law of 1982. So
there's been many different
most of the people lost
ID cards supplied to the Rohingya in the last in the last 50 years or so. It will be complicated to explain the whole thing. This, I think we have 2 more photos, one from Sahat and one from Omal. And I believe this man has been 3 times a refugee, because many of the older generation, they have sort of come to Bangladesh several times already. So so this one in particular is 3 times. Can you explain a little bit, Sahat, about this man?
Okay, please show me the photo.
The photo situation. Can you see it?
That the photo.
It's the Jamal.
I can
Jamal
see
Hussain, 92.
Yeah, no, it's my photo. Yeah, his name is Jamal Hussain. He lives close to my shelter, close to my home, in same sub-block, in same camp. So he's one of the most elder men in my camp. So I meet him often in the camp while I work. And when I go to market and I meet him, he always sit close to his shelter at the shop. Yeah, he became refugees in 2017. So before he became refugees was in 1982, in 1978, also in 1992. So yes, a lot of experience about refugee camp in Bangladesh. He said we went back to Myanmar 2 times before, and the Myanmar government sent us back to Bangladesh. Like we became a stateless, no government, even the government of Myanmar, our government don't want us to keep there permanently with safety and with our rights. They don't want to give our right for citizenship. So at this time, we won't go to Myanmar without our right, without the citizenship, without the right for movement, without safety. So yeah, we feel like don't go to. He will like it's not good. It's not safe to go to Myanmar until the government of Myanmar and the international leaders, the world leaders, don't ensure our right for safety and dignity, our rights for citizenship. Yeah.
Okay, and just to close it on a good note, I think, Omal, we have the last photo here, which is this lady called Asara.
Yes,
Correct?
her name is Sara Khatun. Is 71 years old. So daddy, grandmother, is strong and positive and wears a white scarf. And in Rohingya culture, many widow women feel pride to wear white scarf and simple plain colored dresses. I took that pictures when she was taking rest in the mountain around her shoulder.
Okay. Thank you, Mal. So we have here almost the full team without Omal on a visit with Regina this week. Just to close our little presentation, and to thank you, everybody, from Emilia in the embassy, Rafael, Jasmine, Natalia, and Regina, all for your support and your the opportunity that you have given us to present the photography work of these magnificent young people. If Sahat or Omar, would you like to say anything else? Please, now is the moment to do so. And then we'll hand over to Rafael, who will kind of conclude this event. Sahat, anything else you'd like to say? I think Sahat might go frozen.
Yeah, no, I have time. It's good it's good now because no people are here around, and yes, yeah. So nice to see you all, great people in this webinar, and thank you so much, everyone, for participating in this webinar and for hearing our stories, for hearing about us, and yeah, we can really, I can express how much I feel happy to talk here and to be here with you all. Thank you so much, Yasmin. It's really a great opportunity for us to talk about our lives and to talk the suffering of the challenges of Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh in front of you. So, and thanks, Regina, for helping us for everything in Bangladesh. And yeah, Regina did really hard work for us for promoting our project. And yeah, because of her today, we can show our work to the people of Bangladesh through an exhibition in Dhaka.
Thank you, Sahat.
Proved like Yeah, UNHCR really proved that UNHCR is with refugees, with Rohingya refugees. On this World Refugee Day, today we can show that how we stay here and how we like to express about ourselves.
Thank you, Sahat. So I think hand over to Rafael, or if there's any questions. Or
Thank you, David. Well, we reached the end of this event, and today, as I say at the beginning, is the World Refugee Day. But in Casa Asia, we have a strong commitment of continuing solving this situation, especially with the Rohingyas. So I think it's important to do activities when we have a special celebration or commemoration like this. But what is more important is to keep doing activities during the whole year. So I'm sure Yasmin will think the same. Our commitment will be to continue to do more activities regarding the situation of the Rohingyas. So you can count on us, and we are very happy to do more activities. So it's very important also to receive your feedbacks whenever you have any idea, any comments to share with us, because as I say, our commitment is to continue to give voice to all the refugees, in our case from Asia, and especially the Rohingyas. So thank you very much to Omal, to Sahat, to David, Regina, Natalia, of course, Emilia from our embassy in Dhaka, Yasmin, who is also very sensitive with this subject. She's always pushing to organize and to follow up these events. So thank you to all, and we keep in touch. I don't know, Emilia, you want to say a final word to close the event?
No, Rafael, you sum it up really well. Just a kind reminder that the exhibition will be open for a year, if I'm not mistaken. So I will keep promoting it in my social media. And for sure, please do the same, because what we want is to attract traffic to the exhibition and take the opportunity, no? Keep it alive. That's
yes,
all.
Exactly. We have to keep it alive. It's our duty. So thank you very much, and we keep in touch. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.